Thank you, Rotarians, for joining us this afternoon. Tom Collette couldn't make it today, so they brought me out of retirement. Obviously, I'm a little rusty with the old microphone, but thanks for having me today. Guests and visiting Rotarians joining us virtually on Zoom, please identify yourselves in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, register your participation by sending an email to info@rotary@gainesville.org. And now Jane will lead us in a festive song and Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, I didn't bring my glasses. Oh, Lordy. Okay, I can see that. Good day, Rotarians. So we're going to start with, oh, the glasses are on the table. I can almost read it if someone else holds it like way over there. I'm kidding. Just the song first. So we're going to do God Bless America. Bless you for bringing my glasses. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane, for stepping up to the plate. And now with our invocation, Mr. Laurie Bedell.
Thanks, JT. I'm sure that some of you know and some of our members are not here today because Cotton Fletcher's brother Richard passed away recently, and his funeral is ongoing. And so numerous members are attending the funeral. Do remember the Fletcher family, if you will, in your prayers. Let's pray together. Each one of us here today finds themselves engaged in this process of determining daily what we feel we are called to invest our lives in with our time and efforts, work, family, recreation, community service. What is right for us individually to be about with our lives? We search for what we believe is the right thing for us. What are the givens in our lives we feel we must allow to guide ourselves on a daily basis, Lord? What is the law for our lives given to guide us? We are so thankful for those who have been called to pursue for our community what is right and what has to be managed when it's not followed in accordance with the law of the land. And so today we do pray for those placed in positions to enforce the law to be able to do just that. May those who serve in that position for us, may they embrace wisdom and knowledge and training and professionalism, strengthening them as they serve. Bless them with wisdom, with the new technology that's out there. Bless them with safety as they protect the quality of our lives in our community. And help each one of us individually to listen well to the moral law written on our hearts to guide us daily. I pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Laurie. If we could now have visiting Rotarians and guests, please stand.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. David Gracie. I am pleased to reintroduce my wife, Dr. Megan Gracie, endodontist with a practice here in Gainesville and Lake City, and an incredible mother to our son, Cecil.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Rich Megraw. I'm brand new, wet behind the ears. This is my first time to hold the microphone, so bear with me. but I'm delighted to introduce my first guest, Kirsten Stinson, local attorney from a little known law firm just up the road here, but who also happens to be my fiance. So to extend the metaphor of the talk this afternoon, move over, Lou Gehrig. There is a new luckiest man on the face of the earth, and he is me. So
good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm Brian Kramer. I'm your state attorney, and I'm very proud, along with Victoria Watson, there she is right there, to introduce you to Sean Brewer. Sean is one of my assistant state attorneys. Sean has been an assistant state attorney with our office in the 8th Judicial Circuit for over 20 years. He's served as the division chief for the firearms crimes unit, for the crimes against women and children unit for over a decade. That's not really how Sean is mostly known in the community. He's actually known mostly as Coach Sean. He's coached over 125 youth teams in the community, well over 1,000 young men and women who have been under him for soccer, baseball, any sport you can think of. And Sean's been a proud member of our community, along with his wife, Laura Quisling Brewer, for the past 20 or so years. And it's absolutely my pleasure to have him here with us at Rotary. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rob Engel. I was invited by Kim. He's not here today, but he'll be here next week. I am a former Rotarian, Paul Harris Fellow from McLean, Virginia Club, and Mary Beth has also worked in McLean, Virginia. So we traded stories about Northern Virginia and the DC area. I teach at the university now, public relations and political communication courses, and I also teach online at 4 of the universities. And looking for a Rotarian Rotary home.
Well, Jason, we're not even needed, Jason. Okay, I'll take it. Fellow Rotarians, Jason's not really needed here today. My name is Bill Stateswitz, and my guest is Coach Cody. He does have a last name, I don't remember it, but he's a business agility coach and also my neighbor. Cody, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Hello, Rotarians. My name is Eric Godet, and I'm excited to introduce you today to Justin Clement. Justin is our new business engagement manager at the Chamber. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Eric. Hi, fellow Rotarians. I'm Rennie Henderson, and my guest today is David Cobiella. He is the executive director and co-founder of Keepers of the Springs. They are dedicated to restoration, education, and just kind of keeping our springs in good shape, all of our springs, not just here. So my guest, David.
Just a couple of quick announcements. We'll start with David Gracie.
Good afternoon again, Rotarians and guests. I want to let you know that nominations are officially open for our club's most highly revered, highly regarded annual award. That is the Rotary Club of Gainesville E.T. and VAM York Service Above Self Award. We do this each year, and we'll be accepting nominations until Friday, September 30th. I'm going to be pushing out an email with the official nomination form, which I was looking at it last week, and it needs a little updating. So Jenny Van Hart's helping me with that, and we'll get that pushed out probably by tomorrow morning, but be on the lookout for that. This award is to recognize any individual. It does not have to be a Rotarian, but an individual or an organization, an entity who has rendered outstanding, exemplary, just wonderful service to the Gainesville community, to our citizens and our youth. So just keep that in mind. This is a big deal, and I'm excited to chair the committee this year. So thank you.
Lisa has an announcement for us.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. So it's been a hot minute since we have had seafood, actually 2 years. So I need you guys to take out your phones, take out a piece of paper, write this date down. November 10th is going to be the seafood event for 2022. We are super excited. The menu is amazing. This is going to be an opportunity to have fun and fellowship with other Rotarians from clubs all in our community. Put it on your calendar, November 10th for the seafood event out at Hatchet Creek. Please also be ready for emails that you're going to see. We're going to need help before the event, during the event, and after the event. If you have any questions or you want to help, reach out to Dwight or I, and we will make sure we get you on the list. November 10th. There's no excuse. See you there.
Mary Kate and President Greg.
Hey, y'all, we got a problem. We are number 2 in our district in membership. We need to be number 1. So we need your help on inviting new people to our club. Drag them in. Come on. Y'all want to come to Rotary? We have a lot of fun here. We have cake once a month. Everybody wants cake. Carrot cake, chocolate cake, cake. Any other excuse to just bring them on.
Thanks. Thanks, Mary Kate. So Mary Kate graciously stepped in to be the cheerleader for this cause. You may remember when past district governor Jeff Michaelman was here and he showed us that bottle of whiskey that he was challenging us to win, to beat the Jacksonville club. Currently, we're down probably about 15 in numbers. So it's going to take a lot of work, but I see a lot of faces in the room. We have a lot of guests here today. And so that is very encouraging. So keep that in mind. We don't like being number 2 in Gainesville. We like being number 1. And Jacksonville, we're the 2 biggest clubs in our district and probably some of the biggest clubs in Gainesville, in Florida. So please, let's accept that challenge. So help us out here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're up. And now to introduce our president, Greg.
Thanks. Thank you, JT. By the way, JT stepped in at the last minute because Tom Cousin had to take his father to urgent care. And so I hope everything's okay there. But thanks, JT, for stepping in. That was great. And also for Jane stepping in. Where's Pete Inwall? I don't know, but she did a great job. Yes, sir. Pardon me? What did I say? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Tom Collette. Tom Collette. Thank you. Well, I want to welcome everyone here, to everyone here in the CADE and everyone on Zoom. By the way, I want the people on Zoom to know that today we're going to start taking questions from chat. So please type your chat questions in as we go along during the presentation today. If you want to put those in, and Brendan will read those out to the club members. So we're going to alternate in-house on Zoom. We have over 22 members a week usually attend on Zoom. So that's a good representation. We want to acknowledge the fact they're in the meeting as well. Okay, I want to report on board meeting activities last night. We had 3 new members voted on. Chip Howe, which is Lisa Mueller's significant other. Hugh Eubank, which is Wes's brother, and Hawes Adams. He was a long-term member of this club. He's coming back to this club. He will start in October. And I will say Chip and Hugh are watching on Zoom. So thanks to everyone who took the time to fill out the club survey. That was very helpful. They did it at the district level. They had each club fill out their own club survey. Then they compare us, our clubs, each individual club in the district to the district average. And I would like to give you a few of the places where our club ranked well above the district average. One was the club's ability to raise funds for charitable giving. Okay. So that was something I think we do very well in this club. And so obviously that ranked us highly. The club's reputation in the community. This club is going to be 105 years old next year. One of the oldest clubs in Florida behind Jacksonville. I hate to say that, but we have a reputation in this community. We want to continue to build that through our service, through our fun and fellowship, where people know that we do great things for fun, but we also do great things to serve our community. Okay, so and also in the survey, there was the primary reason you joined Rotary. Well, business and professional networking was one. Opportunities to engage in local service projects. However, when you go to the primary reason you remain in Rotary, the things that rose to the top was fellowship opportunities and opportunities to engage in local service projects. So one of the things we talked about at the board last night is the local service projects, enhancing those. So you'll be hearing more about those. We talked about the Fun and Fellowship just now. We had over 30 people join us at the Harn, Chip, and Kirsten. I got it right? Kirsten. They were there along with many others in the room. And so then we had a table of Rotarians join us at the Hilton. So thanks for all who came out, and look forward to many other events like that going to be happening in the near future. Lastly, our club members are amazing in their willingness to serve our club, not only just to call out one person, but I am going to call out one person right now, because this person warmly greets every member as they arrive. He helps with the setup for the meetings. He serves on the tech team. He breaks down the set after each meeting. And on many weeks, he takes those tablecloths we're using to his place of business to wash them and then bring them back every week. So I want to bring up Brendan shortly. And Brendan, I know Brendan was not at all expecting this, so I'm sure I surprised him. And I want to say thank you for what you do. You're an exemplary Rotary member, and I would like to give you this card in recognition of that. Thank you, sir. So I believe at this point, we are moving to David Gracie, who I will bring him up to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Greg. I am excited about our program today. It's a unique program given by a special person, a brand new Rotarian. He himself described as wet behind the ears. He's not wet behind the ears, but he did just join the club in August, I think, August, September, yeah, a month and a half ago or so. But Rich Megraw was born and raised in Philadelphia, really kind of a suburb outside of Philadelphia. To be careful, Bryn Mawr, he was born and then raised in Newton Square, also a suburb of Philadelphia. But he graduated from Missouri Valley College with a degree in American history. Then, after earning his PhD from Louisiana State University, he went on to join the history department at the University of Alabama, where he served as a professor in American history and American studies until just retiring just earlier this year. Rich has, he's got a couple of sons, adult sons who live in the Kansas City area. He's very proud of each of them. Each of them makes his home there in Kansas City with his own family, successful professionals. He's got what he calls 4.5 grandchildren. He's got one grandchild coming up in, I believe, December. Rich does. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Rich pretty well over the last 3 years or so, and a lot of qualities I could stand up here and talk about, but I'm excited for you to get to know Rich a little bit better also. Wonderful demeanor, just an affable personality. I think probably the most recognizable thing, or the thing that should be lauded the most, is his bravery for coming here to Gator Country from the University of Alabama. Please welcome Rich Megraw.
Thanks, David. Yeah. Can you all hear me there? Thank you, David, for a lovely introduction. And he didn't even charge, so that's good. If you'll indulge me with something deeply personal at this point, what I would like to acknowledge publicly is how much I appreciate David and Megan both, who have done nothing but greet me with open arms, open heart, and an open home since the day we met. So thank you both. And I'm just excited to be part of this group, this family, and this broader collection. Okay, so yeah, I taught school at that place. And remarkably enough, just within about the past quarter century or so, my colleagues, historians, pundits, scholars, observers, have begun to take sport as a serious area of social history, which only places them 3,000 years behind Homer, who made the obvious connection between warfare and sport 30 centuries ago. So a little late to the party, but we're glad you're here. And it's as though who would have to explain to a room full of even the most casual SEC football fans that there's this fundamental social connection between these subjects? Well, all right, indulge me. I want to start with a different subject. I'm sorry, not football, baseball. God, there's more history to explain in that single photograph than we have anything like the amount of time to take. Let me interrupt myself here. Yeah, we're going to have questions at the end, but let me short circuit this to answer already the most frequently asked question that I encountered over the past 30 years, which would be no. As a matter of fact, none of this will be on the exam. So just sit back and relax. Used to hold up a baseball and show a room full of undergraduates, only I forgot it because I'm old, and explain to them that, you know, when you look at a baseball, generally most of us see an article of sporting equipment. But people from my side of the podium understand it to be an historical artifact, because this game is a window into all of these social moments. I just thought that I would share one with you. Track the emergence and evolution of baseball in almost the mid 19th century. And what you get is an absolute box seat glimpse of a society in volcanic transition. So let me, oh, I gotta turn this thing on. Sorry. School teachers and technology. So there we go. Okay. So the guy on the left is Alexander Joy Cartwright. It's sometimes credited with inventing baseball. He didn't. No single person did, but we like to think in individualized society, it's all attributable to a single guy. What Cartwright managed to do was time it properly. He's a member of what we generally recognize as one of the early baseball clubs, the Knickerbocker Baseball Club, organized 1845. And really the great service he did was hold the pen. We recognize the Knickerbockers as the first guy with a series of rules and regulations, codes of behavior, dress, deportment, demeanor, and the kind of baseball that we now recognize as the American game. Clearly, it's got ancient roots. Stick and ball games go all the way back. I mean, we have evidence from ancient Egypt, from medieval France. My own take on it is that it starts even further back. I mean, Thag wakes up in the morning, grabs his club, walks out, finds a rock, throws it up, hit it, and we got a ball game. I mean, so we all know it's got ancient antecedents, but the game we now recognize as baseball is a remarkably viable subject to understand the real transformation of American society from its founding moment, 1776, or the constitutional reconfiguration, 1789, well into the 19th century. So there's a series of macro transformations that are occurring here. In other words, the country is becoming increasingly urban, not rural, increasingly agricultural, or increasingly industrial rather, not agricultural. In other words, fewer of us are working outdoor with our hands, more of us indoors with our heads, and obviously as our new malady. And we all know this. This is a decisive transformation that anybody who's ever done farm work knows you don't need a clock or a calendar. It's task driven and it's seasonally directed. But now you're in the city, and we've made that fundamental connection between time and profit. You got to be there at the appointed hour on the appointed day. I've got about 20 minutes to explain a whole century of transformation here. Watch this. Okay. So in other words, we're working outdoors, or we're not working outdoors, we're working indoors. We're also deeply concerned with the kinds of pathologies that early 19th century Americans associated with urban living: vice, crime, corruption, frequent fires, all sorts of illnesses, that this is a dangerous space. I mean, you know, just read anything Thomas Jefferson wrote, and he's going to tell you that the cities are the place where you go to die. For example, one of the challenges that we have when you get to the city, when a bunch of these kids are moving from rural spaces to urban spaces, how do you get to know anybody? This is de Tocqueville's great observation. In aristocratic societies and monarchical societies, there are a whole series of bonds that connect king to commoner, a whole series of reciprocal obligations. and responsibilities. But the revolution snipped all those and turned us loose as individuals. How do you connect? How do you cohere? What holds this newly emergent democratic society together? And the answer that most Americans are drawing in the early 19th century is precious little. It is a very loosely confederated, very casually violent world. How do you overcome that? The Tocqueville. Well, in democratic society, it's all about voluntary association, like the Rotary and baseball teams. It's also about the collapse of what we call a kind of a village culture, a face-to-face world, and the growth of more anonymous relationships. It creates a whole series of problems. There's plenty of promise as the Industrial Revolution gears up, as the material abundance of manufacturing begins to create really what will become, by the close of the century, the world's highest standard of living. But there's a lot that you're giving up. What do you find to compensate? How do you get through these transformations? And the answer, time and time again, is baseball. How do you connect? Join a team. How do you find your way to a more healthy lifestyle? Play baseball. How do you get out of the dangers of the city? If you're in New York, get on the ferry, cross the East River, and literally play baseball at a place called Elysian Fields. And it's going to make you a better person individually. It's going to make you a better citizen so far as the country is concerned. And collectively, it's going to improve all of us. So just, don't take my word for it. Take Walt Whitman's word for it. Then writing for the Brooklyn Eagle, big baseball fan and the great poet of American democracy. First of all, and right up front, it addresses that fundamental question that Americans have been asking themselves since the revolution, then and still. It's the answer to Creve Coeur's question. Who is this new man, this American? How do you define him? How do you display him? What makes him unique? How do we prove to the world our commitments to what we say is an exceptional society, unknown in history or anywhere else in the world? Whitman's got an answer. You're worried about what makes an American? There it is. It's the game. It's our game. It will take the people out of doors. In other words, all you people working inside who are looking for a healthy alternative, fill them with oxygen, clear air, not the miasma that we say floats over these overcrowded, violent cities. Give them a larger physical stoicism. This goes straight to the heart of the issue. The 1840s are all about what we might say is the first crisis in American masculinity. Oh my God, we're not out there felling the forests and expanding the continent in this sort of, broad-shouldered, barrel-chested, calloused hands way. Now we're working inside. What happens to the future of American masculinity? Think of it as the first crisis of metrosexuals. Baseball. It'll be this surrogate form of athletic endeavor. Tend to relieve us from being a nervous, dyspeptic set. That's perfect. What's the new pathology of urban living? Stress. What's the physical consequence? Ulcers. That's what dyspepsia is in terms of the 19th century vocabulary. Repair these losses. In other words, we know that we're giving something up. We know that we want to get something in return, but we also know that it's all about, as we all calculate in our daily lives, what do I want? How do I get it? What have I had to give up to obtain it? And how do you reconcile all that? It's touch them all, Mr. Whitman. It is absolutely perfect. But don't take his word for it either. Take the guy who we generally now recognize as the father of baseball. His name is Henry Chadwick. He's a British immigrant. He had one of those St. Paul on the road to Damascus moments. Moved here when he was 13, embarked on a career in journalism, was a cricket enthusiast. In fact, was a cricket reporter, and says, yeah, I had just covered a game. It was over in Jersey. I'm going back to Manhattan to write my story up. And I happened to walk past the Elysian Fields as the Knickerbockers were playing, and it just hit me. That's it. That's That's the game. That's the one that most clearly defines and displays who these new young Americans are. And then embark on this whole agenda. I mean, he becomes really the first great sort of advocate or publicist of emergent baseball, and says, just go on down the line. What does baseball teach? It teaches self-discipline. What do we need in this new highly individualized society where we're concerned about the concentrated power of coercive institutions? Self-governance. So what Chadwick does is to link not only identity, but also reform. There are in the 1830s and 40s a sweeping series of reform movements when the collective observation is that we need restraint. How do you achieve restraint without that coercive authority of disciplining institutions? You do it at the individual level. You need to drink less. You need to work harder. You need to have a better diet. You need to clean the whole mess up. We need to send the kids to public school where we all know that they learn self-discipline as much as scholarship and maybe a little bit more. You shouldn't be surprised to find this out when you start working through Henry Chadwick's family tree to find out that his older half brother, Edwin Chadwick, is one of the great reformers in England, one of the real powers behind the movement that produces the Great Reform Bill in England in 1832. He's doing the same thing. He's just doing it through baseball. Edwin was back in London creating a sewer system. Henry is here in America, embracing baseball as a form of reform. How do you make better citizens? How do you make a better society? Get them to play baseball. How do you connect them? How do you cohere them in the city? Sure, join those teams. And we should understand these organizations like the Knickerbockers more or less as fraternities. They had their own clubhouses, they had their own colors, they had their own pennants. And it was also all about not just fraternal cohesion, but self-improvement. At this point, it's more about making social connection than on-skill or on-field skill. They hired their own speakers in, they had banquets, they had dances, you name it. It's all about finding like-minded folks here in the city. The team play, as Chadwick would insist, instills this kind of respect for authority. Certainly the fining system that the Knickerbockers developed, they catch you cursing on the field, 6 1/4 cents. They catch you trying to challenge an umpire's decision, 12 1/2 cents. They catch you defying the on-field authority of your captain, 50 cents, which is a pretty swift kick in the you know where. And clearly, as Chadwick says, this is the primary way. In other words, one of the things we understand about earlier patterns of American sport is that they were absolutely drunken and full of vice, gambling, you name it. What our ancestors did is a little familiar with what we're doing, with what we do now. So Chadwick and the whole pitch and appeal is, as long as we keep this an amateur game, period. Because where the money rushes in, vice follows. Now, I know that here in Gainesville, Florida, we would never associate amateur athleticism with capitalist accumulation. That's just in Tennessee and Mississippi and Arkansas and other more awful places than that. Bite your tongue. Wait. All right. Well, we already got our first F in the class. Okay. So here's Chadwick. I mean, I think we're all literate enough in here. You don't need me to read and go on down the line. But sure enough, the top half quote from Chadwick is, look at all that baseball does for you. It connects you. It makes you a better individual. It makes us better citizens. Collectively, it makes us a better society. Clearly enough. And then for all of you worried about, what defines America, or this ongoing shifting definition of an American identity, don't worry. Take it from this Englishman that your American game is swifter. It demands a better physique. It instills greater moral commitments. It's easier to play. In other words, it's fast. It fits the new time clock discipline of the urban agenda. Now, I know, we watch baseball now in 3.5 hours. It was over and done in about an hour or so. It fits. So these guys will get off work, 3 o'clock, join the ferry, hop the ferry, get to Elysian Fields, play a little baseball, be home in time for dinner. It all works. It all works. Just the way we do it these days. Work hard, get out, do a little workout, get home for dinner. Same thing. All right, and the bottom one, of course, is, and it makes that, that standard argument that we've used, it's the democratic game. That everybody gets a turn at bat. Just as Chadwick says, there's frequent rotation of our elected officials. You're never out of the game for very long here in the United States. Cricket, that's forever. Baseball, lightning in a bottle. All right, well, let me check. Yeah. Very quickly, for reasons outlined up there, baseball in the 1950s is a lot like kudzu, just national, whereby the New York game eclipses all the kinds of regional and local variants in stick and ball games that had characterized colonial and early American life. And that's obvious because it's all about New York directing the modern agenda. In other words, imposing its will culturally, economically, socially on the rest of the country. And so out through this transportation revolution, we're talking primarily railroads. And with the revolution in the publishing industry, pulp paper, the steam press, the linotype, you can produce more, you can publish more in a shorter span. The more you publish, the cheaper it gets. And the wider number of Americans can read this stuff. So any number of these mid-19th century stories about boys who came to baseball, chief among them Aaron Goodwill Spalding, who will become basically the John Rockefeller of post-Civil War American baseball. Oh yeah, one of the kids went to college back east and he brought back the game. Or, oh yeah, we saw in the newspaper, you could send off and get this sort of list of how to play. So we just did that. Cost us 10 cents. We've been playing ever since. Off it goes. So that ultimately, even by the early 1850s, the New York game would have become institutionalized at the national level with the creation of the so-called National Association of Baseball Players, NAABP. In fact, so many teams in the 1850s that they had to reorganize themselves by the middle of the decade at the state level. Okay, well, Pennsylvania, you take over all yours. New York, you do all yours. Wildly popular. So you know what, to finish up, then there's one more. This is well, actually, I've got two more, sorry. Oh, this is Henry Chadwick's invention, who says, yeah, this is a society on the move, dynamic and protean, and we don't have time as Americans. We want all our baseball news, but we don't have the time to read the long narrative stuff. So he's the guy that invents the alphanumeric. Give it a quick glance and look how changing it is. I mean, or unchanging rather. Here's an American Association game from 1884, an American League game from 1902, and a box score selected entirely at random from October 20, 2004, when the team on the left, the Boston Red Sox, whom we'll refer to as the forces of sweetness and light, defeated the New York Yankees, the world's largest outdoor satanic cult, for the championship of the American League. Best night ever. Well, maybe. Okay, so finally this. How popular? This popular. In the most crucial election, at the presidential election, at the presidential level, that this nation has yet to face. There's been some close, none bigger than this. 4 candidates. John Bell, who was the Constitutional Union, he was from Kentucky, basically begging for the life of the Union, saying, vote for me. Why? Because I won't say a word about slavery or anti-slavery, and my favorite colors are red, white, and blue. Or the guy, the little guy, that's Stephen Douglas, the Democratic senator from Illinois, who is really the tragic figure in this of epic Greek proportions. This is the guy that had started so much of the squabble. with his Kansas-Nebraska Act, 1854, and who, to his credit, understood the depth of Southern anger and the determination of Northern defiance, and essentially spent that election just, again, begging for union, and approached Bell and said, you know, could we not get together on this? The third guy is John C. Breckinridge, a then sitting president of the United States who would become a major general in the Confederate Army when the whole fat went in the fire. And the other guy down south here doesn't get a lot of press. He's a big, tall guy and a lawyer from Illinois. All right, how do you explain all of this? Well, through the baseball metaphor. Baseball is so popular now that you can say, John Bell, well, it appears that we have been put out and that old Abe has had a good lick. And Steve Douglas says, yeah, that's because our attempt to create a fusion ticket to provide a short stop, get it, to his career didn't work. And then John C. Breckinridge is slinking off saying, I'm afraid that I smell something awful and that we've about been skunked, the 19th century term for a baseball shutout. And then the guy from Illinois says, well, gentlemen, you know, if you're going to win at this thing, you must get a good lick with a good bat, strike a fair ball, and hit a home run. So that's that. There, you know, if you really let me go, I could have us home by Christmas. I swear to God. But I think I'll stop at that point. I mean, it's fine, right? Right now.
Questions, Jason? Thank you.
Hey, I want to say this as preface. Go lightly, because I still have very vivid memories of the first time anybody asked me a question as a professional historian in a classroom over 30 years ago. And I quote, is anything you say meaningful? No, important. That's what, is anything you say important? And the second question was, is it too late to drop this class?
Brendan, do you have any questions in the chat at this point? Okay, I have a comment. My wife works at Alice Place, which is dementia and Alzheimer's. She's been there 12 years. And one of the most memorable experiences when this guy brought a baseball, and these people that didn't talk, when they handed them the baseball, they started talking about baseball games or playing baseball when they were a kid, just by touching the baseball. So next question. Oh, okay, Greg's got a question.
Thanks, Bill. More of a comment. I was not aware of this history and the connection to the baseball and the forming of this nation and some of our values. Could you say just a quick bit more about that strong connection in terms of how it plays out in today's society?
Oh, sure. Again, home for Christmas. The game was all about, if the society was about equality, so was the game. And I want to say this too, that it's really what's remarkable about this moment is the way that baseball so successfully positioned itself as it's enough of the old and enough of the new not to disrupt anybody. That if you think about it, baseball starts with the dispositive confrontation between individuals in an individualized society. It's pitcher against hitter. But then once the ball gets put in play, it's the new corporate world. That's what makes the triple so exciting, right? An individual knocks a ball into the corner, and it's as fast as his legs individually can carry him, as opposed to the corporate cohesion of the relay play. Right fielder, cutoff man, pitcher, backup, the whole 9 yards. And so many different terms, even when it had to make things up. Baseball would wrap itself in these perceived American values: democracy, equality, opportunity. Later after the war, assimilation. That's why we use the Lewis Hine photograph. That's in an immigrant neighborhood in Boston in 1913. There are any number of stories of young kids who came of age and said, yeah, I learned my language going to baseball games. Or I learned everything I needed to know about this society, just watching baseball. Or how once baseball was professionalized after the war, how playing baseball became an instrument of social mobility. The first professionals were primarily Irish and Germans up and out, but it's been every ethnicity since, obviously. Italian Americans, Romanian Americans, African Americans, away we go. Good?
Thank you so much. We'll stay here for just a minute. If we can set that one down. Yeah, I don't want to use that microphone stand because I don't trust that. By the way, this microphone stand is a bit touchy, so I steer clear of it as much as I can. So in closing today, Rich, thank you for doing this on short notice. And I thought the fact that he pared down a talk that you used to give to your class that would be in a 50-minute, 55-minute talk to 20. That's not always easy to do. So that's quite a feat. And I also want to show you in our appreciation for your time today and sharing your knowledge with us that I would like to give you this recognition certificate from the Rotary Club of Gainesville that we are awarding a scholarship, some funds to the Scholarship Foundation here at the Cade Museum that works with underprivileged and underserved communities so that everybody in our community can experience what the Cade does here when they spark wonder in the minds of young children. So thank you, Rich. All right, buddy. Good job. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today. It's good to see guests and some members that nice to see in the room again, and lots of guests. And I hope you'll come and join us next week when our speaker will be Phoebe Cade Miles. She will be speaking about inventivity, which is a word they made up. By the way, I tried looking it up. It's not there. Inventivity and the Great Experiment. So please continue to bring friends, and past members can come and join us every week. We love our members that haven't seen in a while. We love to see you here. I know many people are very busy, but we have a good time. We have lunch. Got to have lunch anyway. And as you know, Rotarians are people of action. So please do that. I have two quotes for today, both by the same author. One is, every strike brings me closer to the next home run. And the other one, never allow the fear of striking out to keep you from playing the game. Babe Ruth. All right. Now our Rotary Reading Safari Lucky Raffle ticket number, last three digits, 091. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.